So, how often do you hear someone say, if I'm not busy, I feel useless, or I have to work twice as hard to prove myself? So, these words passed down like family heirlooms reflect a deep seated generational curse, believing our worth is tied to how much we can produce. But where does this belief come from, and why does it feel so hard to shake? Welcome to Brown Girls Need Healing Too, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey of healing, transformation, and radical self love. I'm Kiana, and I'm here to help you break free from trauma, reconnect with your inner peace, and step boldly into the life you deserve. This is your space to feel seen, heard, and supported as we explore the tools, stories, and practices that will help you reclaim your power and rewrite your story. Because healing isn't just for some of us, it's for all of us. And brown girls need healing too. You guys, my mother in law is in town and she's been staying with us, and I have been so in like a state of peace and stress free because she has really started, taking up some of the tasks that I normally would have to take care of, and even the things that I would have to take care of that I wouldn't. And it's really allowed me, her being here has really allowed me to be in this space of creativity. So all of these ideas and topics have been flowing to me about things that I want to talk about things that I know can help people, things that I've worked through, some practices and skills that I have learned that I am going to be passing on today. So if you're listening to this episode, at the end of it, you are going to be able to identify and break free from the toxic pattern of thinking that your worth is tied to your level of productivity. And this is called Brown Girls Need Healing Too podcast. So a lot of the stuff that I talk about, it not only applies to brown girls, it applies to everyone. And this is one of those things that apply to everyone. But I'm going to be talking specifically about how in the African American culture or minority culture, this was a generational curse that was passed down to us. So during slavery, human value was tied directly and defined solely by labor output, right? People who were enslaved were measured by how much they could produce in a day, and that's whether that be in the field, in the factories, or homes. When a slave was put on that selling block, the buyer wanted to know, how strong are they? How's their health? Can they produce? That's all they cared about. And this system was a system that taught generations after generations after generations that survival depended on being seen as useful. I remember when I was a kid living with my grandma, it was me, my grandma, my two aunts. And my grandma would literally wake up every Saturday morning after she had just worked a 16-hour shift and clean. And by clean, I mean she would do some of the deepest cleaning I have ever seen in my entire life. House would be immaculate. But one thing about my grandma was if she's cleaning, everyone else is going to be cleaning too. And the thing about my grandma was if she came home and I did nothing for the day around the house, or my aunts did nothing around the house, she'd be pissed. And we probably wouldn't hear the end of it. So for me, this was one of many, 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 many examples of as a child, I learned that my worth was tied to my level of productivity. And now my grandma, who is now 64 years old, has worked every single day of her life. She's still working overtime. And when I asked my grandma, like, what do you do in your free time? Her answer is, if she's not at work, she's sleeping, she's resting. And I have realized that that is not the way that I want to live my life. I do not want to live my life dedicating my whole time on this earth to a job that will replace you in an instant. That's the craziest part about it. You could dedicate 25, 30 years of your life to a job, and if they needed to replace you because you weren't performing or that you didn't fit the bill, you'd be gone very fast. So I told you that you'd be able to identify some of those traits if you are a person that ties your value to work, and we are going to identify those right now. So, the time that we live in glorifies hustling. Hustle, 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 hustle. We celebrate working constantly as it's like as if it's like some badge of honor, but it's really not. And another one is feeling guilty around resting. That's me. That is me 100%. I have to be very aware and very mindful of when I get the feeling to do something because I feel like I'm not doing enough. And I tell my husband all the time, like, I just want to work. One, I really don't like working. Like, I don't like working for other people. It's not my thing. And so I tell him all the time, like, I really just want to work because I feel like I'm not contributing. And he'll go down a whole list of how I'm contributing. Like, I'm the one that pays for the roof over our head. Um, it's the money that I earn that does that. There's other ways that I'm contributing, but it's so crazy because if I'm sitting at home and watching TV and doing nothing, quote unquote, I feel like I'm not doing anything. Now, another Another way to identify if you tie your worth to your work output is if you have a fear of being replaced. So you think that you have to overperform at work or be the best of the best at work because you're going to be replaced. And that's just not true. Or maybe it is. Who knows? And this work output or productivity output equals my worth mentality takes such a huge toll on your psychological well-being because it really does lead to burnout, anxiety, and depression. And when I, like for me specifically, when I am at home and I'm looking around at all of the things that need to be done, I will do them and I will burn myself to the ground. Imagine you have a cup of water or a cup of energy, right? I'm exerting all of my energy trying to take care of things that are just going to get messed up the next day. And I'm burnt out. I'm not in a mode of creativity. I'm in fight or flight mode because I'm overwhelmed, overworked, and stressed out. And this is something that leads to a lack of connection with myself and others because work, quote unquote, takes precedence. I remember when I think I had just started one of my a new business or something, or I was going down a rabbit hole or something I found joy in, which I do often. And my mom was calling me, or like she was trying to call me and trying to get in contact with me because we had barely spoken. And I'm like, hey, I'm starting this business, so I really need to be head down. And I remember her saying, like, okay, don't forget about me, don't forget that you need to take a break. I'll never forget that because that was one of the many moments that I really realized, like, one, I tie my worth to my level of productivity, and two, I just really need to calm down and I really need to slow down and I really need to stop thinking that I need to do everything all at once. Now, you guys know I love talking about the matrix and esoteric principles and all of that good stuff. But I really want to help you understand that the system of working 24/7 is a system of capitalism that thrives on people believing that you have to constantly produce in order to earn a living or be deserving of a good life. Like, what's everyone's answer to having a good life? Oh, I've just got to work harder. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The more that you work, the more that you stress yourself out, the less likely you are to align yourself with the life that you are deserving of. It puts you further and further away because what does working do? It keeps us in a constant state of stress and overwhelm. You can't be you can't be in a space of creativity while you're in a space of stress. You can only be one or the other. And for a lot of us, we are in constant states of stress because we are working. So, if you are listening to this and you have decided that you are ready to break the generational curse of tying your worth to your work productivity, I really want you to reflect on your family's history with work and rest, because our family, our caregivers, this is where we learned this is where we learn the story to tell ourselves about what we mean to the world, what if we're working or if we're not working. Next, I really want you to ask yourself, were you taught anywhere in your life that hard work equals worth? Who in your family modeled rest for you? Who? And who modeled it in a healthy way? Because I know you have a family member, just like I did, or someone that you knew, that they modeled rest, but that's all they did. Like, there was no work. They never had a job, right? Don't pick that person. Pick someone who had a really healthy work life balance. And remember, rest is not laziness. You are not lazy because you decide to do nothing at all. I feel like rest is one of the highest forms of self love, especially if you tie your worth to your level of productivity. It's healing and it's survival. And ask yourself, am I working to prove my worth, or am I working to live a fulfilling life? Ask yourself, who benefits from me overworking? Is it me or is it someone else? 9 times out of 10, it's always going to be someone else. Replace, if I'm not productive, I'm worthless, with my value is inherent whether I work or rest. Now, here's some small actionable steps you can take throughout your day to really reframe your mind and understand that your worth is not tied to your productivity. So start small. This is what I do, or this is what I did in the beginning. I would come home and immediately I'd be overwhelmed because my house is a mess. In those moments when I really wanted to change this, I had to walk in the house and be like, look at the mess, acknowledge the mess was there, and then say, I'll get to this another day. Little things like that. If there are dishes in your sink and you feel this urge to do them, or it's watching TV or doing the dishes, choose TV, choose rest every single time. And I promise you that the more that you do this, the more natural it will become, and you will be able to categorize things to a level of importance and realize that it can wait. It can wait. So, breaking this curse is not going to be easy. It's very, very, very uncomfortable and it takes time. But every time you choose a moment of rest over burnout, every time you remind yourself that you are enough, you're not just healing yourself, you're healing generations before and after you. And remember, you are more than what you produce. If you are listening to this podcast and you found it helpful, please, please, please share this with someone, anyone that you know this would benefit. I feel like the greatest gift you can give someone is the gift of healing, so please pass it on. If you're watching this on